Welcome to Adjusting, a safe space for candid conversations about mental health and well-being with your host, Justin G. Nelson. Whether you're recovering from trauma, redefining your purpose, managing mental health, or simply craving more authenticity, this show is for you. I hope something resonates with you and helps you on your own personal journey. So sit back, relax, and let's start adjusting. Welcome back to episode 6 of Adjusting Podcast with your host, Justin G. Nelson. I didn't think I was going to make this long. In the spirit of transparency, life has been lifing, and I picked up a part-time job, and my recording schedule has been thrown off completely. And it's nothing but the encouragement that I get from you all and me walking in my purpose. That's the only reason you're getting episode 6. I am so happy to talk about this episode because I actually did like some market research to try to get some other opinions of things, just to make sure that it is a shared experience. And so we're going to talk about this, but first, a word from my sponsor. Working on it. However, like I said in a previous episode, we're going to start with the collective breath, just so we're all grounded and centered, and we consecrate this safe space for the conversation ahead. So on the count of 3, I welcome you to breathe in. 1, 2, 3. And breathe out. 1, 2, 3. For the sake of this topic, let's do one more breath. Breathe in. 1, 2, 3. And breathe out. 1, 2, 3. So the educator in me wants to start with an icebreaker or a conversation starter. I took notes. I went back to the old faithful notepad. So number 1, how many of you thought your childhood friend would still be your bestie today? That person you said when you were playing the game of MASH or whatever, it's like, you're going to be in my wedding. You're going to be my maid of honor. You're going to be my best man. Or how many of you are not a product of your community or your environment, but you're more of a positive adjustment that needed to be made to cultivate a better community? Last question. How many of you feel that most of your friendships and communities are a result of unhealed childhood trauma or generational trauma that led to traumatic bonds? You guessed it. Welcome to episode 6, Adjusting to Friendships and Communities. Now, I wanted to talk about this because as a child, I longed for friendships. I longed for friends that I could just be myself around and feel safe. Because growing up, like I said in previous episodes, I was bullied a lot. I was made fun of. I was picked on, not necessarily because of sexuality, but just because I was smart or I was chubby or I went to church a lot. It was just those things that made me an outcast or a target for people's insecurities, whether young or old. So friendships to me have always been a challenge. Another instance, when I was in high school, I found that a lot of male friends took a liking to me to benefit from my attractive female friends, one of which recently got married. Congratulations. Other than that, friendships for me have always been when you go leave or what is going to happen that we fall apart. I have very few close friends. I have a lot of BFFs. And I have acquaintances. I have industry friends. I have friends that I've met throughout the tantric yoga space, but a lot of them have been categorized and haven't had the luxury of getting to know all of me. That's one thing I learned from my first ex is that, some people don't necessarily get to know all of you. And at the time, I was just like, that's not good. That's not fair. But the older I got, and when I started therapy, I realized they were onto something. A lot of people can't handle the full you. And it's not your responsibility or obligation to force yourself onto someone to make them appreciate and want all of you. They should earn the responsibility, or they should earn the opportunity to know all of you. Getting to know someone is like riding a bike, you know? You have your highs and lows, but if they don't stay there for those low moments to help you get back up on your feet, that was a situational friendship. And they just let them go. Just let them roll away with the wind and the wheels, and the right people will come along. So, with adjusting to friendships and communities, there are positive aspects that come with good friendships and good communities. Community and friendships are vital when it comes to your mood and self esteem. So you always strive to have people who share a common background. So growing up in school, we all went to school together. If you were fortunate enough, you had people who shared an interest in music, shared an interest in sports, shared an interest in fashion or food or whatever. Those are like childhood things. So again, referencing In and Out, Inside Out 2 with Riley, her friends had an interest in hockey. Again, they were children. She was also introduced to emotions with anxiety and fear and stress and those things. As children, we are introduced to these more mature emotions. As you get older, you realize you need a friendship or some type of community that offers a safe space. Safe space has become a more abused term sometimes, especially in corporate America, because they're quick to say, we don't want to offer a safe space for you to, baby. HR is not your best friend. They do not always have your best interest at heart. They have a job. They have responsibilities as a company to uphold a certain standard and brand management so that they keep a job, so that the company is not tainted because of this said safe space. So this podcast is a safe space. I understand what it means to need a safe space, especially when it comes to shame in any topic or just a desire to be human or to want to explore and understand other people's thoughts without judgment or pushing an opinion based off tradition. I say that because recently there was a post I shared on Facebook. I won't go too deep into it, but there was a lot of pushback from people in the spiritual space or the church space that felt that the post didn't align with their Christian values. To which I responded, two things can be true. However, you can't always look at things from a Christian standpoint, because, like I said in my last episode, a lot of those people in the Bible dealt with mental health issues, but church people are quick to mask trauma or something with a Bible verse. And that's not fair to people who don't have a strong spiritual background or the spiritual education or know how to understand what you're saying. So you have to meet people where they are and invite them to go on that personal journey with you to understand what it is you're talking about. So when it comes to safe space, you have to meet people where they are. And that's what your friendships in your community should do. There shouldn't be judgment. This is, again, what I am recommending, what I have learned from therapy. But your safe space should be a space where you can just go and let your hair down and just be. So, with the aspect of community comes social bonding. And with social bonding, there is a chemical element that is being tossed around on TikTok and social media, oxytocin. Now, oxytocin is basically the positive emotions. It's also coined as like the love emotion. I don't want to say the sexual emotion because you can share love without the aspect of sex being presented. With oxytocin comes dopamine and serotonin. Now, oxytocin, when it comes to mental health, relates closely to anxiety, depression, eating disorders, and also autism. Not saying that autism is a form of mental health, but it can be associated with people who express signs of autism. So, with an anxiety or depression or eating disorder, oftentimes people with low oxytocin have high depression, high anxiety, or some form of body dysmorphia or some type of eating disorder that comes with the low oxytocin level because they aren't as positive or they have no accountability or any type of positive reinforcements around them. Your friends, your community should help increase your oxytocin level. It's great to have people who just uplift you, who share a kind word, who can find the good in some things, but not necessarily sugarcoat it just to make you feel good. Like you need people that's going to hold you accountable and not be like, oh, girl, he wasn't good for you. Actually, he was good for you, but because you didn't take the time to really sit with the things or you were judging him based off of your past boyfriend or situation, you fumbled. But find a good way to say that. Like, you ain't got to say what I said, but there is a good way or a healthy way to communicate things. So, with that, who's surrounding you? Like, a healthy friendship should offer space for understanding and validation, accountability, support, judgment free zone. I am blessed to have at least 4 people in my life who offer that type of space. I will say, the older I got, I had to let some people go. With the good comes the bad. You have friendships who, I don't want to say they're human leeches, but they can be toxic for a lack of better terms. Those are the people who only come to you when they need something, come to you when they want to share something, not necessarily to gain your support or acknowledgement, but to make you feel less than. These people are emotional dumpsters to the point where they are dumping their emotions on you just because they know you're quote unquote available and then they're gone. They don't hold space for you to reciprocate those things. I've experienced that. It's frustrating. It can be lonely and exhausting. And at some point, you have to go, no, I deserve someone who's going to at least meet me somewhere near the middle. Okay. Like, give me 2 minutes. I'll give you 10. Give me at least 2 minutes to share my things. And hopefully, there will be a balance in that friendship to where you can go, hey, I'm really holding space for you. Can you give me 5 minutes now? Can you give me a little more time? If these people can't, it's okay to let them go. And I think that's a part of some friendships where we feel guilty for cutting those strings. Everyone can't go with you. Life is about growth. And some people are content in their misery. Some people are content where they are. I know I've encountered a few friendships that friends since middle school, high school, but they still see me as that younger Justin, not the childlike Justin, but like the teen. Yeah, I am not the same person. And I will gladly remind you, healthy way, I'm not the same person. And if you held a grudge, I'm sorry. On behalf of that person, I am sorry. However, that's not my cross to bear. I give you grace, and I pray that you find the same grace for yourself to understand that we've grown up. Holding friendships or keeping people in this same mental space where the trauma happened or the incident happened is not fair to either one of you. Grace is something I was introduced to this year, but it is still something that should be given across the board. I give grace daily. I don't know what a lot of people are going through. I don't know what some of my friends are going through. I hold space for everyone I come across until I don't have it. And I say that because some people take advantage of the good that I or the good or the nice side of me to the point where I can talk to Justin about this, blah blah blah. Listen, I'm human. It's only so much I can handle. And it's only so much that I can allow you to dump before I hold you accountable to say, hey, I'm noticing a trend. I'm noticing this is a reoccurring topic, but you are always saying that it's the other person's fault. You do know you hold a role or responsibility in this as well. I'm going to hold you accountable. What did you do? What did you say? Tell the truth. Tell the truth. Because that's the only way you're going to end this cycle. And we all have those toxic cycles, whether it's a situationship, a relationship, a friendship, a workplace, anything. Like these cycles, at some point you have to get tired of it. You have to say, I'm good. We're good. Thank you so much. Which leads me to the quote. People who can't accept the healed you don't deserve you. You got that? Okay, one more time. People who can't accept the healed you don't deserve you. My reader, Tina, said when I was in my previous relationship, she was like, I'm really proud of you for going to therapy and coming to these record readings and really showing up. And it's beautiful that you are doing this work to heal so that this relationship is healthy. I'm single. It didn't work out. However, she said healed so you can speak the same language. So that's something I really take not only into a relationship, but friendships or workspace. And I find that even going back to my previous job, I'm not the same. I'm taking off. I took off to record this podcast. I take off to celebrate other people. I take off in the name of self-care. So continuing on, when it comes to toxic friendships, here's a list of a few things according to Calm app. Now, Calm, if y'all listening to this, y'all can be a sponsor or something. I can do a breathe in, breathe out exercise. But according to Calm, here are a few identifiers when it comes to toxic friendships or communities. Number one, they disrespect your boundaries. One of my biggest pet peeves, and a lot of people don't know this, and it's partially my fault because I don't communicate this. FaceTime. Y'all, I work in social media. I work with branding and marketing. I work around people 24/7 sometimes. Sometimes I don't want to talk on the phone. But then when you FaceTime me, I have to really code switch and be like, hey, I just want to sit the phone down and just be, okay? It's a boundary. I don't communicate it. I will do better with that. But other boundaries we will talk about later in this episode. Number two, constant negativity. If your friend says to you, how is your little insert project here going? That is not a friend. Okay, that is a frenemy. And we don't need that in this year. Okay. Other people who are just constantly calling you and they do that sigh that lets you know it's about to be a shit show and you just like put the phone down and walk away. One of those things. Or if this person, they only call you when it's negative, it's like they done piss me off again, or I can't believe this happened. I believe it. Yeah, believe it. It happened for a reason because you have not put your foot down or made a change to justify or rectify the situation. Number three, constant criticism. Now, this is one I got a lot from friends, ex-friends. They criticize everything I did. Even with the podcast, well, not this podcast, but they would with this podcast. They would say, oh, why didn't you do this? Or why wasn't this way? Or why, well, I would have done, but you didn't. you know? So those constant criticism shouldn't cause you to become defensive. Like when you start becoming defensive in a friendship, their friendship is over. It's not worth it. Number 4, lack of support. Now, I give people grace because I always assume, maybe they're busy or maybe they didn't see it or maybe something come up. If these people are not supporting you and just go, oh, I didn't know. Why do you tell me? I shouldn't have to run and tell you everything that I'm doing, especially me. Justin G. Nelson, I post everything on social media. So if you say, this is episode 6, oh, I didn't know you had a podcast, either I was blocked, you didn't see it because you blocked me, or you just didn't care. And it just so happened I was around you talking about the podcast. Like, oh, yeah, I think I saw something about your little podcast. Keep that. Number 5, lack of empathy. Number 6, manipulative behavior. Now, we have a lot of manipulative friends who will like, hey, I need a favor. Do you? Because you always need a favor. But when I need something, or they'll go, remember I did this for you. Why can't you do this for me? Did you do this like to keep tabs, just to make sure you had something to hold against me in the court of life? Or did you actually do it because you care? You didn't care. Got it. Conflicts. They always have a conflict when it comes to you. Life happens. I get it. But damn, life happen every day. Like, how you always you can't support or do nothing? That's fine. That's fine. Gossip and betrayal. Now listen, as a Cancer, I can get the truth any way possible. Okay. And I will find out if you're talking about me. I will start listen. This is me telling the truth. Okay. As a Cancer, I will manipulate a story to the point where only I know the truth. And if it gets back to me and I know who I told it to, then I can't trust you. Also, other things that come up, just like if conversations or situations happen and you have gone outside of our circle of trust, this safe space that we've cultivated because you were insecure or wanted to prove to somebody else, we can't be friends. Because how am I supposed to go forward and trust you? Now, I know the Bible talks about forgiveness. We're not talking about the Bible. We're talking about life. Okay? So those are a few things that Calm App presents when it comes to the topic of toxic friendships. Now, I want to keep going and talk about another hot topic that has come up because of the pandemic in the mental health community, and it's the aspect of trauma bonds. Now, I was at work and I was asking a few people, like, how do you define a trauma bond? I know I have kind of used this term the wrong way. Now, the word sounds trauma bond. Two people who bond over a trauma, or people who establish a bond based off a related trauma. That's what I thought it meant. Now, according to like psychologists and therapists, a trauma bond is an attachment that forms between a person who has experienced trauma and their abuser. This bond develops when the abuser alternates between kindness and abuse, creating a confusing and unpredictable environment for the victim. Now, I feel like this might be one of those definition 1, definition 2 situations, because for the life of me, I cannot determine like another way to categorize the first definition. A bond between two people who have a shared trauma, because a lot of people oftentimes navigate to each other based off a lived experience that they can talk about, whether good or bad. Substance abusers, people who have experienced some type of sexual trauma, mental trauma, like those traumatic experiences, like these people find each other some way or another, and they're able to bond over said trauma. Some heal from it, some stay within it. But with this definition of trauma bonding, I'm just like, wow. So with this definition too, trauma bonding is an attachment that forms between a person who has experienced trauma. So with this definition, trauma bonding is an attachment that forms between a person who has experienced trauma and their abuser. It's kind of like you you're introduced to a person who you're just like you really admire them, and they see you, I don't want to say less than, but they see you as a person they can groom in a way because they know you're a pleaser or you're easy to manipulate. Like those, it's hard to see those coming. But when they come, it's just like, how do you get out of it? And I always just remind people like you deserve the love or the grace or the space that you give other people. Friendships, relationships, situationships, your community, your environment should never be manipulative. Like even churches can get to the point where they manipulate you based off your spiritual gift. And they're quick to say, this is something that I really had to come to terms with in like the past 2 years. So many people say you miss out on your blessing because you don't want to be obedient in church. I think that's a lie. Stay with me. I just feel that the church can manipulate people into using their gifts for their growth. God will bless you. Yes, you will be blessed. But you should not be stressed in that process towards your blessing for the sake of other people who have manipulated you in a place, whether it's ministry or not, so that they can benefit from it. I don't like that. I don't like that at all. And I find that the black church does that a lot, especially when the wrong people are given titles or positions where it's just not healthy. They don't see it because they've gotten away with it for so long. But I digress. Anyway, with trauma bonding and friendships, there are two things that come up. You have one, which is gaslighting. Gaslighting is another hot term that I love. Okay, I love calling people out on gaslighting, especially when they don't know what it is. Now, gaslighting is manipulation and psychological control, which causes someone to question their own perception of reality. People do this in friendships, relationships, community settings, you name it. At some point, you've been gaslit. Your boss will gaslight you. Your parents can gaslight you. Your friends can gaslight you. Your pastor can gaslight you. So there are 4 different types of gaslighting. So number 1 is outright lying. Number 2, manipulation of reality. Number 3, scapegoating. And number 4, coercion. Those are all forms of gaslighting. Now, if you want some more detailed definition, you can look it up or I can post it on my website or social media. Now, when it comes to boundaries, that was something I was introduced to in therapy. I felt guilty. I felt so bad for setting boundaries until I set them. Now, mind you, boundaries benefit you. You set the boundaries for you. Okay, now I did ask someone, it's just like, when you set a boundary, are you supposed to tell the person that you set the boundary against that you set a boundary? They said yes. I said, I understand your stance. However, if the person is a professional gaslighter, deflector, or manipulator, I ain't telling them shit. Okay, I'm not telling them a goddamn thing because they will use that against me. Oh, why did you set this? Like, I'm always here for you. Right. So with boundaries, there are 15 different types of boundaries. Well, before we talk about that, the definition of a boundary is a limit that we identify for ourselves and apply through actions or communication. Now, my most recent boundary I said was at church. because there were some things going on that I just like, y'all, this is not aligning with my spiritual purpose or the growth that I want to experience. So I ain't doing this, and I ain't do it. And I made peace with that boundary. I ain't do it for 6 months. It was a lot of stuff that happened. And then just recently, there was a shift in my personal growth and things that I experienced to realize the boundary is done. I'm good. I can return to this space in a different headspace. Well, one of the two spaces, and proceed from a healed perspective. So I'll list the 15 boundaries. We can talk about this on social media. You can text me about it, or I can just do a whole episode about boundaries. But these are the boundaries. You have physical boundaries, intellectual boundaries, time boundaries, sexual boundaries, material boundaries, digital boundaries, relationship boundaries, spiritual boundaries, work boundaries, financial boundaries, social boundaries, health and wellness boundaries, personal boundaries, energy boundaries, and emotional boundaries. Never be guilty for the boundary you set. This boundary, like I said, is to benefit you. If you feel that your mental health is being tanked or attacked or taken advantage of in any of these 15 ways, set the boundaries. You say no. You say no without an explanation, and it's not going to feel comfortable. It is not, you're going to feel guilty. You're going to feel like you let so many people down. You're going to feel like this is not in alignment with how I was raised. You get over it. Trust me, you will get over it. A lot of our parents, this is another episode, but a lot of our parents raised us how they were raised or taught to be raised. Some of which had to do with trauma and adapting to environments for the sake of just getting by. That's not our story. Yeah. So set the boundary and be fine with it. So if you're listening to this and you're questioning your friendships, welcome to my life. I'm 35, and a lot of my friendships, I'm just like, how did we get here? How did we last so long? I recently reconnected with a friend and didn't realize that it was my fault that the friendship ended. I am not perfect by any stretch of the imagination. Trust me. I am human, just like you, just like the next person. But what I am is someone who is adamant about healing and or righting my wrongs for the sake of closure. You will never get closure in every situation you are in, but if you can seek some form of closure that will help your mental psyche move on and compartmentalize anything that has happened in your past, seek it. You won't always get it. I don't think I ever got closure from my first relationship, but I'm good. I can be around them and be like, we're good. We are good. Even the situationship, I never got closure from that, but it is what it is. Some friendships, they just went away. Now, I'm not a fan of ghosting, but if that is their way of just moving on, bye, Casper. It is fine. It's fine. I understand that you didn't have the emotional capacity or the emotional maturity to have the conversation, and not everyone does. I'm not saying it's not a flex. Trust me, I ain't got it sometimes. Some people can't have the conversations via phone or face to face. They got to do it via text message because the stress and anxiety comes up. I get it. I get it. But if you have cultivated some type of relationship or bond with someone, they deserve more than just being ghosted. I'm just saying. That's just how I feel. So again, heal so you can speak the same language, and it's okay to outgrow people. But with some friendships, if you find value in that friendship and you know deep down that there is some type of healthy bond there, it may be time to renegotiate. Like, just figure out, like, hey, we have been through some stuff. we're both really trying here. Like, where meet me in the middle. Like, what's going on? And let's just talk. Communication is a thing that a lot of people don't do. We just assume that if someone tells us everything is everything, and it's not. A lot of people are fighting their own personal battles. A lot of people just don't know how to communicate because they're afraid that they're going to say the wrong thing, or they don't feel comfortable being vulnerable. Again, that's why we have safe spaces. If the friendship is just dull, take a break. Take a break. I have taken a break from a lot of friendships in the name of, right now in this time in my life, I don't know how to really communicate things. Maybe my answers are short. Maybe you are wanting a little more than I have to offer. I just need a break. And I know that kind of contradicts what I just said, but as a human, there's only so much you can give at times. Don't give someone the cold shoulder. Just say, hey, I need some time to process things. If the person is understanding, most people say, I get it. I'm praying for you. Let me know if you need anything. If they hit you with the, oh no, what's going on? Baby, this was not an invitation to have a conversation about it. This was just me saying I need some time. If the person is showing signs of suicide, do a wellness check. I have had a few friends who have shown signs of suicide. I have had friends who have committed suicide. Do a wellness check every once in a while. If they get a little quiet, just like, hey, just checking in. Leave it at that. Some people need space. Now, I will say, when a friendship ends and you don't get that closure, or you really thought that this person was going to be in it to win it, that friendship grief, bruh, you just don't know. Like, that is tough. I have grieved a lot of friendships. Yeah. I mean, to the point where I'm just like, who can I run to? Like, who's really in it to win it? Like, we were supposed to be long-term friends and it just ended. So friendship grief is real. Relationship grief is another thing. Death grief is, like the ultimate one. But that friendship grief, that just hits different. But I hope if you're listening to this that you have at least 3 friends that will help you, listen to you, create that safe space for you, and just really be be the safe space that you can just be vulnerable with, let your hair down, and just have fun. Like, life is, I say this so much, but we have lost so many celebrities over the past couple of weeks, and life is just too short to be questioning your friendships, to question your value in people's life, to be in communities and environments that just really don't uplift you, because you spend so much time questioning your worth and your value in these spaces where you could be celebrated in other spaces and growing and connecting with more people and experiencing more life. But I will say, I have friends who I literally only talk to about musical theater. I have friends I talk to only about tantric yoga. I have friends I only hang out with at church. And I found a good balance with having friends in these communities because they get it. I will never overlap these friends because it's scary. It is kind of scary to be like, what if I introduce my tantric yoga friends to my church friends? Like, I don't know about that. I don't know about that at all. But I'm grateful for these spaces that I have been introduced to that all fuel me and help me to become a better me. And I'm grateful for my friends who are lucky enough to get to see all of me, the good, bad, the ugly, and the healing. So I really, really, truly hope you all took something from this episode that really makes you sit and go. I need to reevaluate my friendships. Not saying you need to cancel everybody. Okay, I ain't never said that. Take some time to evaluate the people in your circle and make sure that the people you calling you friends are in it to win it. It may be time to prune, or it may be time to just move on yourself. So with that in mind, let us close with another breath. This was a lot to process, and I want you to leave feeling as if you are doing a great job, okay? So take a deep breath in on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. And breathe out. 1, 2, 3. Until next time. Bye. Thanks for tuning in to this week's episode. I hope you take something away to help you make the adjustments you need. Before you go, please take a quick second to share this with someone you care about. And if you can, please leave a 5-star rating and review on whatever platform you're listening to this on. For more information about adjusting or to inquire about being a guest, head over to adjustingpod.com. Until next time.